Alright, good morning everybody. I'm sorry that the last video was cut short. I actually ran out of memory on the phone, but I deleted a bunch of other files, so now we can, I don't know if we should continue. Maybe there's a simon not to continue exactly, rather than make a separate video on the same subject. So this a friend of mine, he asked, what are we going to do? Where are we going to go? Is it time to leave? If the Democrats take over and so forth. And I said there's really one, there is still the chance, even with now that it's 50-50 in the Senate, that we can do something about the Senate, and that is as follows. Kamala Harris has not yet given up her seat in the Senate. I don't think she's that sure that she's going to be vice president. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that Biden is not going to be president, because there's a possibility, certainly there's a possibility that Trump could be president, and of course would go without any question that Mike Pence would be the vice president. That is a clear possibility, depending on what the outcome is today, with the counting of the ballots and so forth, and the certification of the ballots, and the opposition to the certification that's possible as well, and that's been promised. And the interesting thing is, the thing that I was in the middle of saying that I didn't say, I don't think, is that the certification has to be the opposition to the certification of the ballots has to be in writing from both a senator and a Congress person. And with that being said, if Vice President Pence reads in the dueling electors, he reads the Republican slate, there is no set opposition ready in writing from a Congress person and a senator from the other side to oppose that, as far as I know. Maybe there might be, but I don't think there is. And so that would make the opposition, it would be too late for them to oppose that, and it would just be all set. That's one possibility. But the other possibility is, like we said, that it could go into debate and so forth, as we all know. And then there is also the possibility that some, which I think would be the best thing constitutionally to do, is simply to declare some of these states totally null and void. Really any state that did not do what they're supposed to do, that didn't follow the Constitution. Doesn't matter what the outcome is, by virtue of the fact that judges or the governor or the Board of Elections or someone other than the state legislatures changed the rules of how the election is run, would mean that those votes go to nobody. Not that they would switch from Biden to Trump, but nobody would get those votes. In which case, nobody would have 270. So then the question would be also, are we talking about the majority of the total votes that are counted, or the total votes that are cast? And so if there are those that are not counted, it might come down to that majority, and then it doesn't have to be 270, but the way it's generally been understood throughout history, and the precedent that's been set, is that as it is now, that 270 is the majority in the Electoral College. You have to get to 270, and if you don't, then it goes to the House to vote for president and the Senate to vote for vice president. And there are two ways that could go. the way that's generally been expressed is that it goes one state, one vote. And since the majority of the states in the House of Representatives are Republican states, even if, because meaning the fact that there are more representatives that belong to the Democratic Party, that's because the bigger states sending more representatives. And the bigger states, are going to send those more representatives from the big cities, which tend to be Democrat. And so, if it's one state, one vote, it should go to President Trump, unless some of the states don't go according to that, according to party lines, which is possible also. But the other possibility is that it's not one state, one vote. It is a vote of the House, which would still give it to Biden. But the vice presidency is decided by the Senate. And there's still the possibility, I'm not sure which Senate is voting on it, and it would seem that I don't know when exactly what are being announced. The two senators from Georgia would be seated, probably not before that time, and so there's a possibility that Biden would be the president and there would be a Republican vice president, which could be Mike Pence or could be Donald Trump. And in either case, even with Ossoff and Warnock in the Senate, that would be a 50-50 split, and the tiebreaker would be a Republican, would be either Pence or President Trump would be vice president. The other interesting thing about that, which I mentioned before, is if I was Donald Trump, I don't think he's a superstitious person. I think he's a person who believes in the power of positive thinking, because he grew up in the church of Norman Vincent Peale. And that's kind of how he got to where he is. But that the possibility is, if I were superstitious, is that it's bad luck to be elected president in a year that ends with 0, right? Really, since 1840, every president elected in a year that ends with 0, until Reagan died in office. Reagan was shot but didn't die, and then after him was George W. Bush, who he himself survived, but America was attacked, which also, incidentally, America was attacked right after another election that ends with a 0. It was with Pearl Harbor. So it's a very scary thing if you believe in these superstitions, which supposedly goes back to a curse that an Indian chief gave on Andrew Jackson, who also was elected in a year that ends with a 0 in 1820. But then it went to afterwards that the curse, and of course the first one to die in office there was William Henry Harrison. Again, this is all superstitions. This doesn't mean anything, but it seems more likely than not that Joe Biden is going to die in office, which would mean that whoever is the vice president at the time would become the president. So it's possible that would not be Kamala Harris, who hasn't given up her Senate seat. Understanding this, although it's hard to believe that she would be smart enough to understand that, considering how many stupid things she's said. My kid says she sounds like a 5-year-old the way she talks, or like I think she kind of sounds like someone talking to a 5-year-old, meaning she thinks she's smarter than everybody else, and she talks down to people, which is something that annoys me. I try to talk to people as peers. I work in mental health, and something that annoys me more than anything is when I overhear people talking down to people who are suffering from mental illness in group settings and so forth. I just talk like I'm talking now. I if I sound condescending, let me know, because I don't want to sound like I'm talking down to anybody, like I'm condescending. I'm trying to talk, treat everybody with respect. And, working both in mental hospitals and prisons, and overhearing groups or overhearing interactions between staff and clients, it's very offensive to me. And I don't get offended very easily when I hear people talking to mental patients or to mentally ill prisoners, talking down to them like they're children, because they're not. They're highly intelligent people. Most of the mentally ill people are more intelligent, I think, than some of the staff who are treating them, to be honest. And that's kind of what's brought on the mental illness is the it's being intelligent is not always an asset. Anyway, the message that I want to bring out here is that it's possible that President Trump could be the vice president for the next year or 2 or 3, and if it's more than 2 years that he's vice president, and then he becomes president again at Joe Biden's pretty well expected death. I would be surprised if he makes it that long, but that means then that not only could the President Trump be president for another 2 years, let's say, but he could run again and be president for a total of close to 10 years, which would be pretty sweet. And so that's certainly something that's a possibility in the realm of possibilities. We don't know what's going to happen. I can't imagine that we're going to lose that much that we won't even get the vice presidency, especially after what happened now. I think there will probably be a push as long as, for the time being, that the Republicans have the Senate, to keep at least that check and balance. The question will be, will they want Pence or will they want Trump? But the chaperein, as we say in Yiddish, before Warnock and Ossoff are unfortunately going to be seated, there's what to talk about here. So let's keep our eyes open and see what happens, and let's continue to pray. Certainly, I would prefer that we keep President Trump as president and Vice President Pence as vice president, and then in 2024, it would be nice to have Vice President Pence become the president. I was in 2016. That's really what I was looking forward to, because I really didn't like Trump, and I really did like Pence, but Trump grew on me very quickly. I would say by his inauguration, when he said that this is the return of power to the people, and not just a transfer of power from one party to the other. And then he lived up to that. That's the most impressive part, and this is really what the swamp wants to get rid of. It's not because of Trump's political views or anything else. It's because power going back to the people, and that's what they don't want. And to go back to such a swamp creature like Joe Biden, of all people, it's frightening. Meaning, I've said, if the Democrats were going to steal this anyway, why couldn't we have what's her name, Marianne Williamson? That would have been fun, or really, probably the best candidate that the Democrats had was what's her name from Florida, from Hawaii, the congresswoman from Hawaii. Oh, if you say Heisty, now I forgot her name now. I'm not feeling well, to be honest. I'm embarrassed now. I don't remember her name. But you know who I mean. The congresswoman from Hawaii. She's really good. She's the best Democrat there is. Oh, what is that woman's name? Anyway, but we got Joe Biden, right? That's who they put in. That's who they installed, and it's scary. So, I can't believe I can't remember her name, and I'm gonna feel stupid now. Anyway, thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you. We'll see you later.